So welcome to this video, my name is Alex. Now the root cause of all of our problems, all of humanity's suffering, struggles, misery, fear, insecurity, anger, hatred, all the problems we have, all the problems you have, come down to the presence of fear in our heart. Now, is it possible to have a heart which is free from fear? Yes, it is. I've been studying this area. I've been working on and exploring the fear in my own body, my own tendencies in my mind, my own fears and insecurities, and really focusing on them and kind of excavating them and working on them, understanding how they influence my mind, my body, my emotions, everything. For 20 years, this has been my focus for the last 20 years. So I can tell you, with authority from experience, that it is possible to master fear. Because the situation essentially every human being is experiencing on this planet at the moment is that fear is the master of us. We cower beneath the fearful thoughts that come up, and we allow ourselves to be threatened by these fearful thoughts. However, this is a very topsy-turvy relationship. It's almost like, can you imagine a child dominating its parents and making the parents feel like it is in charge and that it has the authority over the parents? Like a 5-year-old child, for example, frightening its parents and making them feel that they should be subjugated, that they should be oppressed and scared of the child. Well, that's how it is with fear. Of course I can't say all, but the majority of humanity is being threatened by something which is so much smaller, so much weaker than we realize. And it is possible to be free of the influence of fear. So in this video I'm going to explain to you, tell you, and help you understand why fear is present in our being and what it does to us, and how easy it is to let go. And it is easy to let go of fear. The only reason it feels like it's difficult is because we believe the fear. And fears are multi-layered, and what we have to do is become alert to the voice of fear, so that we know when we're listening to a fear, so that we understand that we're under the influence of fear. And as I said, it's very multi-layered, and some of the fears are very subtle. And we get to the point where fear will convince us that if we stop listening to fear, if we stop listening to its voice, then bad things will happen to us, that we need fear. Now we need respect. We need to respect the almighty power of what some call God, or you can give it any name you want to, but the greatest power in the universe, which is intelligent, which is loving, which is aware of us, aware of our thoughts all the time. We need to be respectful of that force and realize it is greater to us, greater than us, and almost be humble towards that force, because our fate lies in the hands of that force, and it can communicate with us, it can guide us, it can protect us from absolutely anything, and I mean absolutely anything. So essentially, when you become aware of that presence of that force, this loving intelligence, which some call God, which I call God, and you know that it can protect you, and how it can protect your mind, how it can keep your mind in the light. And that's where the protection occurs, by the way, in the light, in your mind. Because when your mind is in the light, then no darkness can enter your reality, so to speak. No harm can come to you. So it's vital that we see where this all starts. It all starts with our thoughts. And fear is like a voice that whispers in our thoughts, and it gets us believing certain things. Fear is a delusion. And that delusion is created by this voice, this negative voice, this voice of fear. And it all starts in here, by the way. All fear in our heart starts in here as a whisper, a suggestion, an idea, a vision of suffering, and a vision of something we don't want, a vision or a voice telling us that bad things are going to happen, that we are not safe. This is the main message of that voice, is that we're not safe, that we are unworthy, that we are not good enough. Very critical voice, very, very critical and fear-inspiring voice. Now that's not a problem. For that voice to be there is not a problem. It's when we believe what that voice is telling us that the problem begins, or the problem manifests in our heart. Because as soon as we believe that voice, then we are entering into an illusion. Anything you believe creates a reality for you, a reality of belief. And as soon as you believe that voice, which is essentially a voice which brings darkness into a place of light, it's a little bit like the Garden of Eden, this beautiful paradise where you're provided for, there's no reason to fear, you're safe, no harm can come to you, you've got everything you need. It's paradise. Yet, while you're in that paradise, there's this voice whispering to you saying, that God, he's got a bad agenda, you should be angry with him, you shouldn't trust him, or you should be afraid of him, or bad things are going to happen to you. And in this paradise, you're not completely safe. You should be afraid, you should be anxious for your safety. And so here we are in this paradise. We're believing these visions of darkness. So what happens to us is these visions of darkness descend upon our mind and put out the lights like clouds surrounding the sun, dark clouds which kind of cover the sun. And suddenly reality becomes a bit darker. This paradise doesn't look so bright and beautiful. It seems a bit darker. And then that darkness comes into our heart. And emotionally we lose our connection to the joy, to the beauty, to the sense of freedom or magnificence that we would be feeling if we weren't listening to that voice. It's really important to understand this. This is exactly what happens when we listen to that voice. And of course, we've been listening to that voice for many years, many, many decades. Pretty much all of humanity has been listening to that voice and living the reality that that voice has created for us. When we believe certain things, then we act in a certain way according to the things that we have believed. Our beliefs affect our actions, and of course they affect our words as well. And our words are very, very powerful. They're prophetic. Our words are prophetic. We call in the future. When we say something, we believe things as a certain way, as they are in a certain way. When we say that out loud, that's affirming a reality. And we experience that. We experience it emotionally, we feel it in our bodies. Every cell of your body is listening, not only to what's going on here, but to your words. Because your word is vibration, which reverberates around your body. So when you believe and speak about things which are negative, it doesn't matter what they are, if they are negative, that means they do not carry creative power, they're not in line with divine harmony and happiness and joy and freedom. If they're not in line with those things, then they are pulling you into a dark reality, when in fact you're surrounded by light, when in fact you are in paradise. This world is paradise. But what's happened is that many of the human inhabitants have become deluded and hypnotized by this voice. And so in the minds of those people who believed, who are listening to that voice and who believe that voice, they don't see paradise. They see a world of suffering. They see a world of misery and darkness. And so the very first thing we need to do is wake up from that delusion and realize that that voice is talking to us, and realize when we're listening to it. Fear is very subtle. The voice of fear is very subtle, and it's multi-layered, and we can't just switch it off. We can't switch it off, but there are ways to become more wise to what it's saying to us, more wise to the fact that we are being hypnotized. It's a bit like the snake in The Jungle Book, it winds itself around Mowgli and starts hypnotizing Mowgli with his eyes. That's exactly what fear does. It whispers to us and it tells us these stories about who we are, stories about what's going to happen in the future, stories about what's happening in the world, stories about what other people think of us, stories about how we've messed our life up. All these stories are whispered to us by this voice. Don't need to give that voice a name. People do, but it doesn't matter what you call this voice. It's a voice whispering to us, which is trying to stop us seeing the reality, the divine reality that we live in. There is no reason to fear. There is no reason to be anything but grateful and joyful, to live in peace, to live in gratitude. There is no reason, except that we believe that voice. We believe the hypnosis.